What is going on, Southeast Michigan podcast? Welcome back for another episode. We are at game week, ladies and gentlemen. We are at game week, but thank you for coming back. Wherever you watch or listen, we're free and available. Check us out on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications. And it's been quite a wild ride for me personally. This past weekend was ups and downs. I had quite a roller coaster. I know I've been kind of saying that the last few episodes, whatever, but life has just been absolutely crazy. We had our giveaway. We've found our winners. So congrats to Jennifer F and Justin M on the jersey giveaway. Jennifer chose the Blake Corum, and Justin is going to get the JJ McCarthy. So those will be shipped and tipped out to y'all this weekend. So again, thank you very much for all who helps the page, help the page grow and all that stuff. And it was fun to give back, and a couple Michigan fans got some swag. All right. This episode is, we're gonna get into headlines and stuff like we do normally during the football season. Very brief. We're gonna kind of give a quick update on Michigan recruiting. It's been a while since we did that, and then we're gonna jump over to Fresno State, preview them. We got some mailbag, and then I'll give you some betting picks this coming up weekend. I'm gonna do that this year. I'll keep a record and how I do, and uh, you can choose to ride the lightning with me or not. It's completely up to you. But I'm going to be telling you three picks that I'll be betting on this coming up weekend. And then there's a couple games that I'm going to mention at the end of it. So, kind of a three-segment thing going on here. The Connor Stallions documentary did drop on Tuesday at like 3 a.m. And of course, I did watch part of it. I watched like 25 minutes of it when I was on my lunch break at work, and then I kind of like listened to the rest of it on my phone. I can put one earbud in at work, and from time to time, I would pull out the phone and I'd kind of see what's on the screen. But for the most part, I listened to it, and I'm going to be rewatching it, and then going to be doing a documentary review on it. And of course, it'll all be right here on the show. And I'll give you kind of my thoughts, and of course we'll rate it with the other documentaries that we've already done. It is a documentary where it's not going to change a lot of people's minds. Kind of like how the politics sphere is right now. You're either on one side or the other, and there's not going to be very much that's going to sway you to the other direction. Like there's not very many undecided voters, at least in my opinion, and there's not like a lot of undecided people who are going to decide one way or the other after watching the documentary. It was by the Untold series, and quite frankly, um, it's it's not as good as it should be, or could have been. A lot of questions unanswered, and I kind of felt that same way with the Johnny Manziel one and the Florida Gator one. A lot of meat was left on the bone, and they didn't dive into it. It's like they're afraid to get in the nitty gritty. Was it the referee Donahue from the NBA who was point shaven years ago? I watched that one, and then that one, it almost felt like they're trying to make you feel sympathetic for him. Oh, everyone was doing it, and so maybe you kind of feel that way with with the Stallion story. But of course, we'll get into that um, when we turn that corner. So let's get into our episode today, um, episode 64. Oh, real quick too, I posted the final standings of my Big Ten season predictions. Okay, so at this point in time, if you haven't listened to the Big Ten season previews, you probably won't now. We're getting really close to kickoff, but I'll run it through the list real quick. Actually, so we'll start from the bottom to the top. I'll just read you off the name of the team and their overall record rather than their conference record or whatever to save some sort of time here. But Indiana's going to finish on the bottom. They're going to be 3-9 overall. The Northwestern also at 3-9, but they're going to have one conference win. And then you kind of have a three-way tie here with Illinois, Minnesota, and UCLA at 4-8, 2-7, and all throughout that part of 2-7 through their conference slate. Purdue 5-6. Maryland 6-6, Wisconsin 5-7, Rutgers 6-6, Washington 7-5, MSU 7-5, but MSU's in front because I have them getting 5 wins in the conference compared to Washington's 4. Nebraska 8-4, USC 8-4, but USC going 7-2 in Big Ten play. Nebraska 5-4. Michigan 10-2. Penn State, Iowa, and Oregon all at 11-1, and then I got the Buckeyes going undefeated. So that's where I stand on my predictions. I will have to go back and double check the win totals or see if they've changed from now on, but I'm definitely gonna be betting on these, and when I do, I'll make it public, and we'll see how I pan out at the end of the year. All right, all right. Segment 1, headlines and stuff. All right, real brief. I mean, there's some other stuff that I could probably get into, but I kind of cut out to save some time on this episode. We're going to spend a lot of time on the mailbag. College game day visits College Station this weekend, Texas A&M and Notre Dame. And then, of course, the Science Stealer doc dropped on Tuesday. Like I said, I won't go into too much about the whole thing until we get to the review itself. But it was very, I will say this before we get to the recruiting. I'll say this. Like the Donahue thing, it made you feel with the music tones and the setting and everything like that. It made you feel like they were trying to push the I feel sorry for Connor card, the sympathetic card. I just don't feel it that way. It seems like a lot of Michigan fans are kind of like, I understand like you like wanting to move on and whatever, but like the fans that are like gravitating towards them and trying to make them out some sort of like martyr like savior. I don't know, this Jesus Christ. This like the sacrificial. Like I just quit. Look, just quit showing this dude support. Okay, this dude could potentially rupture the program for a decade, maybe more. Depending on what the final verdict is here. Like in the documentary, I'll say this before we get to recruiting. I was hooked. I was in it, and then like the last 5 minutes completely got thrown off. That last 5 minutes of that documentary had me completely thrown off, and it kind of negates anything that was in front of it. So that's my opinion. And again, without spending too much time here, we'll of course get into that when we review it officially. So really headlines and stuff very brief. Probably could have even gone out without even saying anything like that. Like I said, there's a few things on there that could have added. I think Brian Kelly also said today something, made fun of Oklahoma State's like QR codes on their helmets, says it doesn't feel collegiate. And when I was at work, I read that headline and I read it so fast, I thought, because it's had a headline on there, OSU. So instantly I kept thinking he was talking about Ohio State for some reason, and I thought maybe like the Buckeye leaves were looking like QR codes to him or something like that. That's honestly what I thought. But it was Oklahoma State. And my instant thought was like, why does anyone care what the man who fakes a Cajun accent? Who cares what he has to say? And I'll also say this too. Ohio State and Michigan State fans are really hammering home on Jim Harbaugh right now, calling him a phony. How did he not know? Blah blah blah. And it's like, look, again, if I had my son's playing football for his first year this year, if he is ever lucky enough to even receive a collegiate offer at a prestigious school or anything like that, or gets noticed anyhow in any sport really, but like let's say football, I would pick Jim Harbaugh 1,000 times over 1,000 times compared to Brian Kelly, nonetheless, or many other coaches. Right? You either hate Jim Harbaugh or you like him, you love him, right? And so I personally don't think there's a phony part in Jim Harbaugh's body. And to me, Brian Kelly just screams full of fake, just nonsense. So you can give me a break on that. But anyways, let's get into the recruiting real quick. 4-star quarterback Jaden Sanders committed to Michigan out of Kilgore, Texas. And this is this is over the last month or so. We didn't really do a lot of Michigan themed episodes really since the beginning of July because we did the um, Big Ten previews and stuff like that. High end 4-star wide receiver Andrew Marsh also commits. He's out of Fulshire, Texas. Uh, High end 4-star, probably borderline 5. There's a couple of recruiting services that have him at a high end 3, but Andrew Marsh is a monster, and he's been visiting Michigan quite a bit. I don't see him on the fence at all. I think he's 100% locked in. I don't think he's going to be decommitting anytime soon. I listened to an interview his mom did with Sam Webb on from 24/7 and WTKA out of Ann Arbor, and you know they seemed, that was probably about a month and a half ago, and at that time, they seemed like they were really trending towards Michigan without saying it, and I think they're in for the long haul. They got a good relationship with the coaching staff, and I think Andrew Marsh is here to stay. Auburn though was able to flip 4-star defensive lineman Nathan Marshall from Michigan, so kind of like how the Philip Wright wide receiver thing went down. Like they committed, but there was talks, there was rumors that they're still being recruited heavily by other teams, and they weren't true Michigan guys. Philip Wright flipped to LSU, and he's out of. I believe he was out of Louisiana, so proximity to home thing might be a factor. But with Nathan Marshall, that was a borderline 5-star guy, but let's be honest, Michigan's defensive line is pretty thick right now, and they got guys coming in. They got a lot of bodies on that position group, so uh, best of luck to them, and enjoy Auburn. Auburn right now is definitely dishing out the NIL because I think on 3 they're under the number 6 recruiting class right now for 2025, so they're making waves for themselves. All right, and then lastly, as it stands, Michigan is sitting at 15th in most recruiting services rankings. So even with the decommitment of Nathan Marshall and the commitment of Jaden Sanders and Andrew Marsh, that's probably about where they're at. And a lot of, if you guys recall, back in April, May, maybe even March, Michigan only had a few commits at the time, and they were 50th, 70th, 60th, whatever, and all the fan bases were hooting and hollering. And a couple months later, they are now jolted into the top 15. So you just gotta sit down and be quiet for a little bit and wait for things to happen. All right. When we get back from this break here, we'll get into Fresno State. When our community wins with us, we want to ensure you've maximized your ROI. Line shopping for the best odds matters, and that is why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books. Thankfully, there's never been a better time to get signed up, and we're here to connect you with the best promotions industry wide. Using our link, signupexpert.com/southeast, you can get access to all the sports books in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique features. Most importantly, this page automatically connects you to the top promotions of each book, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. If you want to take advantage of these benefits and support our brand, please sign up for your next sportsbook at signupexpert.com/southeast. All right, back for segment 2. This is when we are talking Fresno State Bulldogs. We'll take a quick look into them, and we'll give you some of my what I'm watching out for type things and my predictions for the game. So Michigan versus Fresno State, August 31st, 2024. It is just mind-boggling on how fast this summer went. It is, I mean, we probably say that every year. Time does fly, right? It's a bit cliche. But I, a little bit ago, came in from the elementary school that my kids go to for open house. It's like stop growing. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So yes, August 31st, Fresno State under the lights, 7:30 on NBC. I think this is one broadcast crew with Todd Blackledge and Noah Eagle. I kind of enjoy them. I think Blackledge is kind of a douche sometimes, but um, I do like Noah Eagle's voice. Good play caller, um, or good game caller. That is. Michigan is -21, I believe. Says it wasn't on Caesars. I think I've seen this on FanDuel. Yeah, this is FanDuel. -21 at the moment. Over under is 45.5, and they are -2,000 on the money line. What we know about the Bulldogs. They beat the Purdue Boilermakers 39-35 in West Lafayette last season. Jeff Tedford stepped down as head coach due to health concerns back in July. Tedford was 45 and 22 in 5 years at his alma mater, which I think at least three of those 5 years were north of 10 wins. Tim Skipper is the interim head coach for the 2024 season, even after stepping in for the bowl game this past winter. So when they played their bowl game, they had Tedford basically step aside, for his health, and Tim Skipper took over, and of course now he's back at the helm, at least for the year. Quarterback Mikey Keene threw for 67%, 2,976 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions in 2023. Running back Malik Sherrod had over 1,200 scrimmage yards and 10 touchdowns. Fresno State's defense gave up more than 24 points 9 times last year. Fresno State's run defense was just inside the top 100, ranking 97th. Not good. We will also be retooling an offensive line, which lost 4 starters. So if Michigan can control the line of scrimmage, this will get potentially ugly for the Bulldogs. However, I am going to be curious to see how Malik Sherrod does versus the Wolverine defense. 1,200 scrimmage yards, 10 touchdowns. That might be good enough for maybe making a play or two in this game. We'll see. Mikey Keene, think this is either his 4th or 5th year coming up, so got game experience. Last year was really like his true first actual season as a freshman. He played I think 10 games. Sophomore, I don't know if it was an injury or if he got banged up or whatnot, but he played a little less than that. I think he played like 6 games, 6, 7, and then of course last year he got the full boat. Things I'll be looking for on the Michigan side. Do we see game breaker Donovan Edwards, or do we see the bulk of 2023 Donovan Edwards? Now, this is kind of getting into um, a mailbag question later, so I'll I'll dance around it here. But anyways, that's what I'm looking for in this game. Can Alex Orji exit the game, leaving no doubt he's the next man up, or does Davis Warren shine enough to keep the controversy going, or do we get both for the foreseeable future, like 2021? Gabe McNamara drives you down to the red zone. JJ McCarthy comes in, tries to punch it in without fumbling the football. Blah blah. We know how 2021 went, right? Just kidding. But yeah, seriously, are we just going to see a drive being shared, depending on when they're on the field or where they're at on the field? Excuse me. Or are they just going to truly pick out a starter? Now, by the time you listen to this, the starter might have already been chosen. I believe today, Wednesday, was their last practice before the game. So I think Sharon Moore was hoping to pick somebody by now. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. How does this offensive line look in pass protection? So really, whole entire offensive line, but you're going to have guys who do have game experience, just like Josh Preeb from Northwestern, and Michigan guys who've been spot starters from time to time, and guys who come in to you know fill the formation out, whatever they're doing, whether it's 2 or 3 tight ends. Um, Next, Michigan's red zone offense. Can they convert possessions into 6, not 3? So we've seen that with Jim Harbaugh over these past 3 years. Granted, national championship run, but it varied through each year. I think more so with 2021 and 2022. The Jake Moody show was out there a lot. We couldn't convert. You look back at that 21 Nebraska game. Michigan wins that game really because Jake Moody, kicks them into the W column. But can this offense in 2024 be the type that can punch it in for six instead of settling for three? And we got a new kicker in Dominic Zavada who beat out Adam Samaha. So Zavada Samaha, the place kicker room. So we'll see. And then how aggressive is Wink Martindale in his first season or his first Michigan game? So Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator, coming in from formerly the Baltimore Ravens and New York Giants. We'll see if he's going to be blitzing more, less, same, not at all. He is known to be a little bit more of an aggressive coach compared to McDonald and Midner. So that'd be again something I'm watching out for. I think the front seven of this team is going to be just disgustingly elite, to where we'll see if we even have to blitz. You know what I mean? Let's get into my overall predictions and thoughts. Being the first week of a new familiar regime, I think Michigan uses this matchup to experiment, especially if they get out on top quickly and sustain a comfy lead. Do they plug in multiple running backs? Are they going to pull Orgy or Warren early and put the other guy in? It's just going to be um, something definitely going to be we're going to be learning new numbers and stuff like that. So I'll be doing a lot of scouting per se with my binoculars, right? See um, who's out there on passing downs, who's out there on second and short, who's out there on special teams. So yeah, we'll see. Um, but I think Fresno will be hanging around to the third quarter, possibly. I think both Orgy and Warren gets reps, and if Dono gets a pair of touchdowns, they will probably shut him down for the day and kind of roll with Mullings and Hall, and maybe we get the freshman Jordan Marshall, and I still want to see Cole Cabana out there. Is it Kirk Cabana, Cole Cabana? I already forget, but I really was excited when I seen Cabana get signed in his class, and he's been hampered by injuries pretty much all of last year and into this into this camp. So I'm just hoping Cabana gets a fair shot at it because Michigan continues to recruit a lot of running backs, and at some point, we did touch on it earlier this spring summer, about is Cabana going to be that guy, that wild card that is kind of the odd man out and transfer somewhere to get PT. One of these running backs is going to, even maybe one of the guys coming in the next year's class. They got three, and I think they're in the final four for Savon. I think it's Savion or Savon Hyder. He's a running back, and he's got like Ohio State, Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, Michigan, Penn State, I think too. Maybe I don't know. He's got a top six or top five. Michigan's one of them, and if that kid enters his name onto the pledge list, man, we're looking at a lot of running backs. Next is if Loveland gets a few looks, while that defense feasts. So again, defense I think is going to have a field day on the line, and maybe Loveland gets a play on the ball inside that 40-yard line when you enter the opponent territory. Is he going to get one up the seam or down the sideline and like the old-fashioned way, lower the shoulder, get in the end zone. And my last, overall predictions and thoughts I have, Michigan's going to rotate a lot of younger guys on the front seven. So probably one of the more, I was going to say one of the more deep positions. I mean, define deep, define depth, but it's just a lot of unknown, unproven guys. So after you get past Rayshon Benny, after you get past Mason Grant, after you get, by, Kenneth Grant, who's that next dude, coming up. So I am and I'm not like one to really give out like specific scores, but if I would have to say anything, I think maybe this is like Michigan 31, Fresno State 13. Last year if you remember, like the first 3 games, Michigan, like, again, I say this sometimes, I say this sometimes, like, meat left on the bone. I feel like those first 3 games, they could have put a little more of a stamp on everything, the stamp of a seal, approval, whatever you want to call it, and they just kind of they didn't beat those teams more soundly as I thought. Like that Eastern Carolina game felt like they could have beaten those guys' ass a little bit more, and then at the very end of the game, ECU is like trying their damnedest to get a freaking field goal in there so they don't get blanked. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how it is. I think it's going to be something similar like that where Michigan kind of gets out on them early, maybe kind of cools off, with the back and forth, and then maybe they pull away again at the end. Maybe that's my gut. That's what my gut's telling me. So yeah. So when we get back, we'll get into the mailbag and some of my betting picks and games I'm looking at this weekend. Okie dokie. Back for the next segment. Is this segment 3? Oh boy. Yeah, this is segment 3. Goodness gracious. All right, mailbag time. Again, appreciate y'all who write in. If anyone ever wants to write a question, tweet at me. Go ahead and do it. Drop a comment on a Facebook post, something. Any for discourse. I'm all for yapping on here to y'all. So yeah, again, appreciate y'all who did write in on this mailbag though. I said y'all a lot right there, didn't I? Okay, first up, Jeff Johnson, friend of the show, co-host with me over at Real Talk, which I think is just kind of fallen by the wayside. And Jeff and I, we've kind of, I'm off here doing the Southeast Michigan podcast. He's over there, his podcast with Brad, was it Two Friends, 12 Rings, something like that. And we just wouldn't have time to do Real Talk again. It's unfortunate. I really like doing that one, but I'll have Jeff back in here and doing an episode with me here coming up one of these days. All right, so he writes in quite often, and when he does, it's usually a lot, like today. So we'll get into these questions one by one. His first one is why can this team repeat as national champions? This team can repeat as national champions if what got them the last season continues. So elite line of scrimmage, being on the plus side of turnovers, and if that culture shift continues on from the 800s in 2021 season. So people want to say, oh, they were only good because of Connor Stallions. They were only good because of the signs. No, they're good because they had 2 NFL level defensive coordinators. One of them is now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. The next one is they brought in a running backs coach who is severely underrated. Obviously not there anymore in Mike Hart. They brought in Mike Elston, the defensive line coach. Steve Klingskill was a boss. Ben Herbert, as their strength and conditioning coach, was one of the biggest key factors. They went into a player-driven team. They changed the culture. They allowed more of that open door policy. They took emphasis more on the Ohio State game, and I've said it a million times. I thought it was kind of strange that Jim Harbaugh, out of all coaches Michigan ever had, that he would need to uh, reinvent the wheel and put more emphasis on that game. But they did that. They did the Ohio State practice. They did the Georgia drill. Um, a lot of it was everything together, recruiting better and just getting better coaches in there in general. That was what was missing. And again, if that culture from 2021 on continues, I think they're going to be in good shape. And a lot of those guys in 2021 are now seniors. So as long as the torch gets passed, they'll be in good hands. Um, Now the next question is why can't they repeat as national championships? To me, it's not going to be. It's not playing complementary football, and they're going to need both sides to be dangerous. So if one side's good and one side's bad, it's not going to happen. They have to have both sides elevated at the same peak, same level. Um, last year I would say the defense was just a tad bit higher than the offense, but they were close enough. What is the leash size for named starting quarterback? I'd say early in the season, probably small. Later in the year, maybe longer, given with trust and experience. However, even Jim Harbaugh is loyal to a fault. Like he wasn't, if you throw a pick six or an interception, he's not going to just be like, "All right, you're done." You know, like you look back at the shoot. What year was it? Was it the 2016 season when they played Hawaii? Oh my goodness, was it 2016 or 2017? I want to say it was 2016 if my memory's a little bit foggy. And Wilt Spate goes out there and he throws a pick six to Hawaii, and then that was like right. Jim Harbaugh has that tradition where he like takes his quarterback by the front chest of the pads and like you know, knocks him around a little bit, punches him in the gut, slaps him on the helmet, tells him to get out there. And then Wilton Speight goes out there and throws in that pick six. And then he brings it back to the sideline, does it again, whatever. And then he settles in, and then they blow them out like 49 to a bajillion. So, or a bajillion to seven, something like that. Anyways, so you get my point. But, yeah, I think Sharon Moore probably will handle it similar to Jim. I don't think they're going to be like, you know, mess up once and, you're going to be kind of like how Bill Belichick did Stephen Ridley. Stephen Ridley fumbles the ball once, and good luck seeing the field, fam. Let's see here. Will Donovan Edwards be the five-star running back we've been waiting for, or is he just big game Don? So I kind of danced around this earlier in my pregame stuff. Um, you know, some say he's a volume touch guy. I think with more of a workload, he's going to be effective. I think finally this is the season he's utilized kind of like Austin Eckler. I feel like last year had a lot to do with the mental aspects. He said it himself. Um, I don't know if he was seeing a therapist, but he was definitely meditating. 2022, he carried the ball 22, 25, and 23 times in the final three games. It was pretty solid, right? The Ohio State game, the Purdue game, and the TCU game, even though they lost. In 2023, he only rushed north of 10 carries five times. Granted, he was behind number two, Blake Corum. So all in all, I think five-star Don can be big game Don. And yeah, all in all, I think he can be five-star Don and big game Don combined. Um, and like a lot of these we got a big running back room, and those dudes behind him are getting a lot of praise. Benjamin Hall, Khalil Mullings. So I don't know. It's going to be the running back rotation will be uh, something to open your eyeballs and watch because um, when we see Donovan out there in 2022 by himself, he's more than capable. And I feel like sometimes he kind of has that Trent Richardson ball carrier vision where, he scores. Like when you watch that Washington game, both those touchdowns he has in the first half, he like runs right into the backs of the lineman and then bounces out outside. So the other team's not gap sound. But, he once he gets to the edge, he's gone. He's gone. And I feel like what was missing from 2022 to 2023 was just the physicality in his runs. When he had that one touchdown run versus Purdue in the Big Ten championship, like he breaks like four tackles, and you just felt like last year you sneezed on him, he'd fall over. So, very perplexing, very curious on how this will play out. But I feel like that finally in his senior year, like he's gonna have like the workload finally. I felt like they've had an Austin Eckler this whole time, and they refuse to use him like that. So we'll see. Long-winded there. I apologize. All right, so the guys, Jeff writes, the guys being Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Colson Loveland, and Donovan Edwards. But who's the other guy or two? I kind of thought about this, and I decided to only write one. I thought maybe writing like Makari Page up there, but I left him off. I put, maybe Rod Moore is deserving of that if he's healthy and playing. But I put down Jayshon Borum. Ton of hype in camp, and might have one of the Michigan. I was going to say Michigan might have one of the better linebackers to really ever strap on a winged helmet in quite some time. So it's a lot. It's saying a lot, right? But I feel like he's going to be like at minimum Devin Bush. At minimum Devin Bush. I think that um, might have some Prescott Burgess in him. I really think this dude's gonna be special, and I think they absolutely stole this dude from Maryland. Not like that, ladies and gentlemen, not like that. But you know what I'm saying. I feel like they just got him for free, essentially, and I can't wait to see him go out there and tear it up. So appreciate you, Jeff. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for writing in. And like I said, I'll get you on this podcast soon, and one of these weeks, whatever, we'll do a post game and pregame for the next week soon. All right, Jamie Lato, another longtime listener. Thanks, fan, for writing in. How do we lose this week? Oh, God, what a negative question. I'm just kidding. Michigan loses if they don't protect the football and or look past the Bulldogs to the Longhorns. I think we both can agree this locker room culture won't let that happen. Next question. This was the last one. This is from Jen Fisher. Uh, how much of an impact will Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA have in their first season in the Big Ten? Kind of open ended there, I think. Huge. I would say, as I've hollered all summer, the logistics side and travel side alone will play a huge role. But this league is going to be competitive as ever, and you have Oregon coming in, who's built for a championship run. So with them specifically, and with the Pac-12 way of being a bit different than the Big Ten is going to be fun to watch. So you got your Midwestern football versus more of quarterback-driven teams. With the Big Ten, let's look at the Big Ten traditionally. Michigan is, uh, and this is a very generalized, but Michigan has always been run first, good defense. Not going to sling the ball air raid style, and so you don't really have a lot of quarterbacks that are drafted super high. Um, you got solid running backs, and it seems like a lot of the running backs that Michigan ever puts in the NFL are always injury prone, like Chris Perry, and they just never amount to what they could have had in college or what they did in college. And then you have like Ohio State, who can have high flying offenses, but when it comes to quarterbacks, until CJ Stroud's season last year, like none of them ever really pan out in the NFL. And then you have like Wisconsin, who who's always focused on like run heavy teams, and Penn State's always kind of like that blue collar esque type team. You got your Purdue of you know somewhat of a good defense. You know what I'm saying? Like you just have these teams that are more like vanilla traditional, and then with the Pac-12, you got USC out there just putting wide receivers in the NFL, quarterbacks, a lot of skill positions. You got Washington out there, who's usually got a pretty good defense and will light a fire on you on offense. Last year they had a good offense. A couple few years ago they didn't, but they had a good defense. UCLA is kind of like, probably UCLA will probably be more of a traditional Big Ten looking team than out of any of them. I know they brought in Eric Bieniemy to be their OC, but like the last 2 years under like Deshaun Foster, they've run the ball. That's like their identity is leaning on the run. And then you have like again USC, or I already said USC, like Oregon. They're seems like it's just spread offense, Heisman level quarterback play. Their defense is usually pretty elite, if not elite. Built for a competitive run. However, Oregon has just always been that team that just can't get over the hump to win anything outside of like a conference title. God damn, the top of my foot is itching like crazy. All right. So again, thank you for writing in that too. I know that was another long-winded answer. Let's get into some of the games I'm watching this upcoming weekend. Um, and when I say games I'm watching, when I'm not watching Storage Wars or Michigan, flipping through and watching these games. No, I'm just kidding. But no, these are the games that I will be peeping on. And usually it's when I'm watching other games other than Michigan, it's most likely other Big Ten games. I really don't watch SEC like head-to-head games too much. I just like to watch my conference. And um, usually if I'm not watching the Michigan game, I'm out cutting the grass. I'm doing something else anyways, right? It's just too much football to consume, and that's not a bad thing. But especially games here with like the Thursday and Friday stuff, it's just easier to get home from work or you don't, and it's just on. So one of them is going to be on Thursday here, and that's Rutgers hosting Howard. It's funny. I saw this on ESPN, and that game or this game has tickets going right now on sale for $5. But I'm watching this game, or I'm keeping my eye on it because I want to see how the Scarlet Knights' new quarterback looks. Ethan Kaliakmanis transferring in from Minnesota, and so a lot of people are calling Rutgers a dark horse in the Big Ten this year to at least upset somebody, at least one, and someone to possibly get to 8, 9 wins. I don't see it. I picked them to go 6-6, unless Greg Schiano can unlock 18 Kalik like skill level and take him to the next level. I feel like it's just kind of you don't have Gavin Wimsatt anymore, and you just kind of like level off. It was not really an upgrade in my opinion, and I could be proven wrong, but that's where I stand. Michigan State hosting Florida Atlantic. Uh, that what the hell is that? Is that Friday? Anyways, I'll be checking in on Aiden Childs. So again, another team where you know has a quarterback battle. I'm gonna say battle, but has question marks. And as you guys have heard me going through these previews, Nebraska and MSU. A lot of people are calling these two teams ones that can make some noise this year. I don't think so. I mean, they might early on in the year, but I'll be more worried about these teams next year. But Aiden Childs is pretty raw. Got a lot of hope in him in East Lansing there. Next is Georgia hosting Clemson. That's Saturday at noon. Georgia is 13.5 favorites. Uh, Penn State at West Virginia. So again, this game last year, West Virginia traveled to Happy Valley, and we talked about that in the preview. Excuse me. West Virginia kind of hung around Penn State for a little while, and once the Mountaineers' offense just could not sustain drives, Penn State pulled away, and Drew Allard threw a couple tutties. But this one in West Virginia, um, it's gonna be interesting. I think Penn State wins this one, but I got them going 11-1. They're not losing to the Mountaineers, I don't think, but I'll keep an eye on this one. All right, and then we'll close here with my best three picks. Okay, so these are picks that I'm going to be doing every week. I'm going to do at least three, and we're going to tally my record throughout the whole year. All right, and so I'm not suggesting you take these, but these are the ones that I'm picking. So if you lose by picking these, don't come crying to me. But these are the ones that I'm going to be betting on. Okay. So the Clemson Georgia game, the over under is 48.5. I'm betting the over on this. I think Georgia blows the doors off Clemson. High scoring game. Okay. So over 48.5. Next one, Illinois State at Iowa. The over under is 48.5. Illinois State, they're not even going to get into Hawkeye territory more than once. If they do, it'd be quite embarrassing. I think this is going to be on an under. So over on Clemson, Georgia, under on Illinois State, Iowa. Next is Florida International at Indiana. I'm taking Florida International plus the 22. I picked Indiana to go 3-9 overall in the season and 0-9 in Big Ten play. So their first 3 games are, I'm predicting that they'll win for that 3-9. But 22 points is to me just way too large to cover, and they got a new regime, new play, new quarterback, all that stuff. I think the Hoosiers are going to be bad. And I think Florida International, excuse me, will keep this a little bit closer than that. All right. Anyways, excuse me. Again, I want to say thank you to all the supporters, the people who tune in, listen, interact, right in the mailbag. Appreciate y'all. Again, congrats to Jen and Mr. McPherson out there for um, the winners of our jersey contest. Anyways, go blue, like, share, subscribe. All that information will be in the description box below. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Go blue.